Heyo, so for this next trick for creating impacts, I'm going to be focusing on a well-known tool in the sound design community, Whoosh by Tonsturm. It is a reactor ensemble, so I have reactor instantiated here, and then I've loaded up the Whoosh ensemble. This is not going to be a Whoosh 101 course, so I'm sort of assuming you know your way around it. I might do a video tutorial on that later if it's necessary. But yeah, when you first load it up, it's going to look something like this, and usually what I always forget to do is to turn it up to 96K. That's my default preset, but I'd recommend you do the same when you instantiate it in Reaper. But yeah, don't forget that. And then what we're going to be doing is just like using the user banks instead of the built-in ones, because we want to be using our own source instead of just the included ones. So for this example, we have these little wubby synth sources here. Which are pretty cool, sustained textures, but they're not impacts, which is what we want. So I'm just gonna load these up here. Whoops, where'd my window go? Load up 12 of these here into our user bank 1. You can use like all 4 user banks if you'd like to, but for now I'm just gonna use the first one, set them all to run from the same sample bank. I'm also going to turn it all to source instead of impact because we're making our own impacts here, not using the built-in impactor. And then I'm also changing them with grain mode set to easy. I'm shifting it more towards the cloud mode because it gives it more like a little granular, less clear, loopy sound. And by default, it's going to sound something like this. And that's cool, but that's a whoosh, and that's not what we want. So in order to get it more of an impact, this is like a very classic trick. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, I think the person who originally showed this to me was my friend Oscar, like years ago, back when we were in school. So forgive me if you already know this, but you want to turn the symmetry all the way to the left. And what that does is it makes the speed on the left-hand side here really fast, and on the right here, really slow. So it goes fast in, slow out, and creates a little pop transient in the middle. And just with that one control, it'll sound like this. And that's already pretty cool, but we can do a little bit more in here to get a little bit more punch out of it. So what I'll usually do is turn up the amplitude a little bit, turn up the pitch quite a bit too to give it like a very slight zap, enable the drive, and turn that up with the hi-fi EQ setting, just because that usually sounds good with the mid scooped a tiny bit. Enable the compression with the threshold down, ratio up, attack up to let the transient through, and then maybe even like slightly more limiting as well, and we can hear how that sounds. That's pretty cool. That's more like what I'm looking for. I think I'm actually going to back off the limiting. You can also enable rotate, so it cycles through the different sources. I mean, it's all running off the same source here, so it doesn't matter as much. You can also like choose random and then turn down the contrast a little bit. Maybe turn down the speed so you get like a nice blending between the different sources. And that'll sound a little something like this. You can also play with the speed. Higher speed settings sound more poppy and have less sustain, like this. Whereas lower speed settings sound more sustained, like this. And yeah, that's basically the whole trick. You can play around by loading different sources and blending between them. And what I really like about this one, as opposed to using some of the other approaches, is it not only turns one sound into an impact, but it can blend between 4 different inputs at the same time and turn it into a sort of composite impact, which can have like, you know, it's whoosh, so you get different effects each time, but sometimes it can be pretty good. Anyways, that's all I got. Thanks for listening, and let me know if you think of any improvements.